the first question before starting anything is, what is a state? What is a state? Can anyone of you throw light on this question? What is a state? It is okay to be wrong. Okay, there are no wrong answers actually. So it is okay to speak up if you feel.
Configuration of any system or position in a, like it's like what parameters does it have right now or something else afterwards. Okay. So a particular timing describes the state.
Okay, so it is configuration of system, some kind of configuration of system. That was, if I sum up your line, is it correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. What is your name?
Jai.
Jai, okay, Jai. It was a very good answer. It is some kind of configuration of the system. Yes. If I tell solid state, liquid state, gaseous state, plasma state, you all have some pictures in your mind. No? That is the configuration. Yes, that is a state. Okay, that is a definition of state, very good definition of state. But if we have to go on mathematically elaborate definition, more mathematical definition, or if you need to have a little more understanding from that, yes, state, any other definition if it is coming in your mind? This is correct definition. It is very good definition. That is configuration of the system. Yes. Yes. Any other definition coming in anyone's mind? Okay. So I think we'll be sticking up with this definition, configuration of the system. We'll be sticking up with this definition, but I'll be throwing some more light on this definition. What is a state? So state for a particle, or if we have some classical particle like a cart, maybe we have a cart, and if cart is moving, okay, this cart is moving, then if we need to know everything about this system, there is a system, and if we need to know everything about the system, knowing configuration of the system means knowing everything about the system. What do we need to know about this cart? Its position and its momentum. If we know these two things, at any instant, at every instant actually, at every instant, if we know these two things, I think we'll be able to tell that where is the cart, it is its position, how fast is it moving, what is its mass. From momentum we can have the kinetic energy, p square by 2m. So if we know the momentum, we can know the kinetic energy. From position, normally the potential energies are position dependent normally. So from position, in most of the cases, we know the potential energy. So, and potential energy, kinetic energy, we know both of those things. We know position, momentum, we know the velocity, we know the acceleration. If we know the position, from potential energy, we can know the force applied on the cart, because potential energy, from potential energy, we can get to the force. There is some equation you have studied in electrodynamics. So from potential energy, you can get to the force. So I think if you know these two things, you can know everything about the cart. There has to be known at that instant. So in our layman's language, we will tell that state, if you know the state of the system, you know everything about that system at that instance. Okay, so I think this definition is clear, but I'll try to give you some more examples like this classical particle. Classically, states are defined by x and p at any instance. Like at every instance, if you know these two things, you know the state. But if you know x of t, position as a function of time, then also you know state, because from x of t, you can get v of t. If you know the mass of the particle, then from here you can get momentum, p of t. And if you know proper initial conditions, like the boundary conditions, its position at time t equal to 0, its velocity at time t equal to 0, you can get from velocity to acceleration, a of t. If you know acceleration, you know the force on the cart, f of t at any time t. So if it is moving, there is another way to know the state of the system, that is position as a function of time. If you know this thing, you know the state of the cart. Either way, if you know at every instance x and p, then also you know the state of the system. Here you don't need any boundary conditions. You don't need to know when it started and all. Here you need to know boundary conditions, because when you are solving the integrations, when you are differentiating, you might be knowing that when it started and all. So here you might be needing the boundary conditions. Here you don't need. If you know these two things, it is complete description of the system. You know everything about the system: kinetic energy, potential energy, everything. Okay, so if you know the state of the system, you know everything about the system at that instance. Okay, so there is the definition of state. But in quantum mechanics, if we know the wave function of the system, that is psi, x, and t, if we know the wave function, I know it may sound terrible. The wave function, the word, it might scare you, maybe, I don't know, but it might scare you or might not scare you. If it scares you, I was at your position, believe me. It used to scare me. So if you know the wave function, then you can know expectation value of any variable, like the sandwich you used to do in psi star, and any variable you write corresponding operator, any measurable quantity you write its corresponding operator, and then you try to find it out, the expectation value. So if you know the wave function, you can find out expectation value of any observable quantities. So you can know any observable quantities expectation value from this wave function. So this is called state in quantum mechanics. That's why if you see in Dirac notation, I think you guys are studying right now Dirac notation in third year, that in Dirac notation, you call this guy as a state vector. You call this guy a state vector, if I am not mistaken. So that's why it is called a state vector, because it is a vector in some vector sense, and it is also describing the states. That's why it is called a state vector. So if you know the state of the system, you need to know x and p, or you need to know x as a function of t, or you need to know the quantum mechanical state. If you need to know the quantum mechanical state, you need to know psi. So these are all the ways to know the state of the system. Okay, so these are few ways to know the state of the system, but the state, we differentiate it into two segments, like two parts. There are two different kinds of state we define. It is all a recap. I think you guys are getting where I'm going. So it is all a recap. One is called macro state. What is the macro state of the system? If you have a single particle, this guy is micro state, this guy is the macro state. But if you have a collection of particles, then comes the idea of micro state and macro state. So for a collection of particles, there comes the idea of macro state and micro state. Okay, so from here, how are we moving? We first knew the state classically and quantum mechanically. Classically, we started knowing the state when we were in 11th standard. Then we calculated these two things in mechanics so many times. In quantum mechanical state, we used to calculate in BSc second year, third year, I think. So quantum mechanical states, we used to be knowing of single particles. Now we have jumped onto something else, and that is the state of collection of particles. How can we know the state of collection of particles? If we have a box, suppose, if you have a box, and if you have some gas particles, gas molecules in it, these are some gas molecules, these are good guys. So these good guys are called gas molecules, or we can say gas particles. Okay, so these gas molecules or gas particles are there in that box. Now from the box, if you see from outside the box, what do you see? You see what are the parameters you can measure to know the complete description of this box. You can measure its pressure, you can measure its volume, you can measure its temperature. You can measure the entropy of the gas, maybe. You can measure the internal energy. What is internal energy of the gas? You know from thermodynamics. Internal energy is nothing but average kinetic energy of all the molecules. Average kinetic energy of all the molecules is called internal energy. If they are not interacting, if they are interacting, then there is some potential also between those molecules. And those potentials also have to be calculated when we are considering internal energy. So internal energy is nothing but total energy system has internally. It has internally. So there are so many gas molecules. Everybody is having some kinetic energy because they are colliding with each other and bumping onto each other. All of them are having some kinetic energy. All of them are having some kinetic energy. So those kinetic energies, if you add up average of all and take average of all the kinetic energies, that is called your internal energy. If the gas is non-interacting, by non-interacting I mean that if you take two charges near to each other, they interact. So one charge sends off the other charge the other way, or one charge brings the other charge near to it. So they are called interacting particles, the charges, or maybe two masses are called interacting particles. But when we talk about the ideal gas, we assume that the gases are non-interacting. So what do we mean? That between two molecules of the gas, there is no potential energy at all to attract or repel. There is no potential energy at all. So in ideal gas, the internal energy means only the average kinetic energy of all the molecules. But in normal gases or any other systems, the internal energy means the internal average kinetic energy plus average potential energy added over all the molecules. There is the internal energy. So if you know these parameters, you can know the box from outside completely. You can know the box from the outside if you know these parameters. You can know everything about this box if you know these parameters. So they are called the parameters of that's why they are called state variables, because they represent some state. These guys are called state variables because they represent some kind of state. I think somebody has joined. Okay, I'm sorry for this interruption, but I think we'll try to make sure from tomorrow. Yes, so all the guys in here, these parameters are called state variables because they represent some kind of states. I was there. Yes. From internal energy, I just want to clarify one more doubt. From internal energy, if you take a box of gas particles, if you put wheels underneath that box, and if you apply a force on that box so that the box itself is moving. Now, if the box is moving, all the molecules are also going to have the kinetic energy component in this direction. All the molecules are definitely, because if you are sitting in a train and if train is moving, you are also moving with a train. So you are having a kinetic energy. But that kinetic energy is not giving the internal energy. Internal energy is because they're on motion. If you go into the box and see from this reference frame, sitting in the box, then also the molecules are moving, not from the ground frame, but in the box frame, all the molecules are moving, and that is what constitutes the internal energy. Okay, so if you know these variables, you know the macro state of the system from outside the box. Okay, from outside the box, if you know these guys, you know complete description of the box. That's why you tell that for the collection of the particles, this guy is called a macro state. All these guys are called the macro state. Okay, they are defining variables for the macro state. So this is a macro state. If you are seeing some system from the outside, it is layman's language, of course, but if you are seeing some system from the outside, that is called a macro state. And what is a micro state? You try to measure position and momentum of each of the particles. You try to measure the position and momentum of each of the particles, and you try to find out position and momentum of each of the particles, that is xi and pi, for all the particles. Then you know the microstate of the system. Every particle is continuously moving. So if you know the microstate of the system, these guys are actually changing continuously, because each and every particle is continuously moving. So its position, its momentum are continuously changing. So microstate of the system is continuously changing, but at some point in time, the pressure will stop changing, the volume will stop changing, the temperature will stop changing. So macrostate can be constant. If we put a box of gas here, it will stop changing its pressure and volume and temperature after some time, that we call equilibrium, when macrostates stop changing. But microstate, the particles will still move inside it. So to know the microstate, we need to know the position and momentum of all the particles. To know the microstate, we need to know the position and momentum of all the particles. That is how we know the microstate of all the particles. If they are quantum particles, we need to know the wave function for all the particles. If they are quantum particles, we need to know the wave function of each and every particles, and we need to know if wave function is overlapping with each other or not. That is a point of further study. But if we need to know the microstate of the system, we need to know the wave functions for all the particles either, or we need to know the position and momentum of all the particles if they are classical particles. So this is the way to know the microstate. This is the way to know the microstate, and this is the way to know the macrostate from outside the system. Now, in yes.
But aren't we incapable of knowing the position momentum at a same instance because of uncertainty principle?
Yes, that
for
is
each particle.
Yes, that is a very good question. But I was talking about classical particles. So if you have some balls in the box and you are just shaking this box with the balls, and if you have somehow because if you are thinking about the gas particles, it is very difficult to measure the position and momentum of all the particles. But if you are talking about balls, let's take them as a hard spheres that we used to take them when we used to study the ideal gas. When we used to study the ideal gas, the simplest model was to take each and every molecule of the gas as hard spheres. Then we can calculate its position and momentum theoretically. But for quantum particles, yes, you are absolutely right, and that's why we need to know the wave functions if we are providing the quantum descriptions. But in your syllabus, we will be trying to stick to this guy. Okay, there is something called quantum statistics, which I'm sure you will be learning in MSc if you will pursue MSc. So there you need to work with this guy called wave function. But till now, till the span of this syllabus, we will be trying to stick ourselves with this position and momentum. We'll try to assume that we can measure. Try to assume. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So thank you for this question. Yeah, you can bring question anytime. I'll be very much happy. Okay. So yes, for all the particles, Xi and Pi, for all the particles, these are the microstates. These are the microstates. In equilibrium state, macrostate stops changing, but microstates keeps on changing. So this is a definition of state. Now let me give you two examples, small examples that you have studied. I'm sure you have studied, and those examples will tell you that what is a macrostate and those with what is a microstate. First is the simple example, very simple example. You have three particles, A, B, and C. This is the example from BB Loud only that you have studied in your fourth semester. So there are three particles, A, B, and C, and you have four energy levels. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four energy levels. One has energy of 0 unit, 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit. You have four energy levels. You have three particles, and you have to arrange them in this energy spectrum such that the total energy of the system remains 3 units. So you have to arrange these guys in such a way that total energy of the system remains like this. Okay. So here we will try to understand the difference between macrostate and microstate. If we put a box and if we put all three particles in a box, what we can measure from outside the box is 3 units of energy. Okay, the box is 3 units of energy. That's all. That's all we know about the box. Now, how those 3 units of energy can be distributed? There are multiple ways. Okay, the one way is that you put all these three guys onto level 1, A, B, and C, onto level 1. You put all these three guys and the system has energy equal to 3 units. All these guys to level 1, so each has 1 unit of energy, and total of the system is, of course, 3 units. Are you guys getting what I'm telling?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So there are other few ways which you can do that. We can put one guy on the 0th level and one guy on the 1st level and one guy on the other level, and you can permute and combine these guys in 3 factorial manner. Like you can put A here and B here, and you can put B here and C here, and you can change these guys in 6 different ways, like 3 factorial different ways. You can have a permutation in these guys in 3 factorial equal to 6 ways. So you can change positions of this guy, because why should A sit on the 0th level or B sit on the 1st level or C sit on the 2nd level? Why should they do this kind of things? You can change them, interchange them. A can go on the 1st level, B can go on the 0th level. Nobody stops us from doing that. So this is something else. There are 6 ways to arrange them interchangeably. Now there are other ways to do this also, like you can keep both of those particles A and B on the 0th level, and you can put the C on the 3rd level. Okay, this is the 3rd level. You can put C on the 3rd level, and here also you can have 3 ways to change, because you can put A on the 3rd level, or you can put B on the 3rd level, or you can have the C on the 3rd level. So here also you have 3 ways of doing this. I don't think of any other way we can have total energy of 3 units apart from these 10 ways. So these 10 ways are called microstate. If you see from outside the box, you know only 3 units of energy. You know these things only. That is what we call macrostate. We know, if you know the macrostate, you know that there is 3 units of energy shared by these 3 particles. But inside, if you take your microscope and look inside, you might find that either all of the particles are sitting on the first level, or this, out of these 6 ways or out of these 3 ways, particles can be in any of the configuration. So these are configurations which are micro configurations. That's why we call them microstates. Okay, so there are 10 microstates associated with a single macrostate of 3 units of energy. If these particles, we don't know that which particle is which, like all our electrons, then these 6 ways are reduced to 1 way only. If these all guys are indistinguishable, that all are electron, not A, B and C, all are A and A, all red balls. All particles are red balls. Here we are talking about red ball and green ball and blue ball. But if all the particles are red balls, then this is also 1 way of arranging, because it doesn't matter if you change them or not, the system will look the same. If you change A to B, because both are A, it will look the same. So it is only 1 microstate corresponding to this, and it is also 1 microstate corresponding to this. So for indistinguishable, there are only 3 ways you can see these particles. So if all are electrons, you can only have 3 microstates, but one is red ball and one is blue ball and one is green ball, or you can distinguish between those 3 particles. Then you have 10 different ways of arranging these microstates. So I hope this distinction is clear. I hope this distinction is clear between macrostate and microstate. And if it is not clear, we'll try to get in some other example. You take a box. Okay, you take a box, you put some coin, 50 coins. There is a little bit advanced explanation. Okay, I hope that if I take 20 more minutes, you guys will be sitting here, because this recap, it is taking more time, much more time than I thought. Yes.
Hello.
Hi,
So
yes.
can you please elaborate something on that labels that you shown, that like
Huh?
how
Yes.
these labels? Yes. Is it
Yes.
for a collection of particles? But these labels could also change with time, I guess. So how this label will be like defining property of that particle, that it will be in this state or this energy level or this energy level?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not getting your question. Can you rephrase the question in some other?
I just wanted to know about these labels, energy levels.
Okay, they are, let's see that they are energy levels. So just the way we have energy levels in hydrogen atom, like we have minus 13.6 electron volt, and then we have some minus 13.6 by 4
Yes.
electron volt.
Yes, sir, that I know, but
Yes.
here energy levels of what? Like just energies, different kind of energies a particle could have,
Yes.
or it is a fixed levels of energies that particle will have?
Oh, it is a hypothetical problem. First, let me tell you, it is a toy problem. We can tell that. Just to understand the concept of micro and macro state, there is a toy problem, hypothetical problem. So there is no physical significance of these levels, and these are not all real particles. So it is just a toy problem. Just I wanted to explain this thing of macrostate and microstate.
Achha. Okay.
So just that we get the feel of these things. So if we have some hydrogen atoms in this guy, in this box, if we have some 4 or 5 hydrogen atoms, then we can know that which of the hydrogen atom is sitting where using this example. That's what my motive was. Okay. I hope.
So it depends on the gas that is filled in.
Maybe gas or maybe chemical. It can be anything. Okay, so chemical also has molecules, so it can also go to different levels of energy. So maybe gas or maybe chemical or anything.
Okay.
So this is a toy problem, just to be used to understand something else. Just like we study the particle with infinite potential well in quantum mechanics, that is a toy problem. There is nothing called infinite barrier. But we use that and we try. Yeah.
It was always told that there are these energy levels, but you know, I have been curious, like what kind of energy levels. It was not clear then, so I just wanted it.
Okay, I hope it is clear now.
Yes, I hope too.
Okay, you hope or you don't? it is clear.
I will read something more on these things.
Okay, yes,
It is clear that it is like hypothetical, but I want to go more in that stuff.
Yes, you can definitely go.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. So there are 50 coins if we have in a box somehow, and you shake that box rigorously. Like if I have this kind of box and you have 50 coins, you can shake that box. And when you just stop shaking that box, you have some coins which shows head. When you open that box, close that box and shake all the coins, and then you open the box. Some of the coins shows head and some of the coin shows tail. Now that is corresponding to some of the coins. Like let us suppose that 49 coins showed head, and let us suppose that 51 there are 50 coins, no? So I think I have to change these numbers. So there are 26 coins that has head, and there are 24 coins which have tails. So total 50 coins. This is one macro state. Now which coin is having which state? Like you can mark coins with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 50. Now it is even possible that again you close the like you can change the coins. Like first coin is having head and second coin is having tail, for example. You can flip those two coins and still the macro state will remain the same. You can flip those two coins. Like first coin was initially having heads, but now you flipped it so it has tails, and the second coin which was having tails, now you flipped it so it became heads. So you can flip those coins, just two coins, and still the macro state remains the same, but micro state of the system changed. I hope you are getting what I'm saying. This is the way the micro state keeps on changing. This is a small example from the coins point of view. You can change, and why we say that heads and tails come out in nearly equal numbers. There can be one circumstances when there is only one coin with heads and there are 49 coins with tails. But in this situation, the micro states cannot change efficiently. They can only change in 49 ways or 50 ways. Okay, they can only change in 50 ways, but here you can change by so many ways the micro states of the system. Still the macro state remains same. This is one example of macro state. This is another example of macro state. They both are different macro states, but correspondingly micro states in this system can not change by more than 50 ways. Like first coin can have heads, or second coin, or third coin, or 50th coin. So 50 ways you can change the micro states of the system, but macro state has to be remained the same. There are only 50 ways to do that, but here there are many more ways to do that. So when the macro state of the system remains the same and micro state keeps on changing, that is called equilibrium. And in equilibrium system prefers that its number of micro states are maximum. Why it should be maximum? Because it can interchange so easily. It can increase its entropy. I should not use this word, but it can increase its randomness if there are more micro states available to a single macro state. Is it clear, this example? So that's why we tell that more or less the favorable situation is when number of heads and tails are more or less equal if we shake the box and open it up to see. So that is the most favorable situation. It is not that this won't occur, but it will occur in a very less frequency than this situation. So that is what I wanted to tell. The difference when system attains the equilibrium, it tries to be in the macro state whose corresponding micro states have very large number. Or we can say it is maximum. You can prove this mathematically, but it is not part of our course. So you can prove this mathematically. So system tries to go into that particular macro state whose corresponding micro states are maximum. Number of micro states are maximum. So it is a very large number. Okay. So from here, I am stopping with the discussion of state. This is the complete description of state. Do you have any doubt on the state's description? Any doubt? Macro state, because these things, if you know properly, then it is very good. I'm going too slow. I know. This is the way how I should teach the second year students, but many of you might be bored by now that what he is teaching it is too slow. but I wanted to just make sure that we both are on the same page when I say the word state and microstate and macrostate. Are we all on the same page from now? Like, do you have any doubts? You can say yes. Yes.
So can you repeat what you said about the maximum number of microstates? I did not quite catch that one. The last one that you said.
Okay. So what do we suppose when we have 50 coins in the box and we shake the box rigorously and then we open the box to see what is our expectation is number of heads and tails should be equal, nearly equal, right? In all the 50 coins, the number of heads has to be somewhere around 25 and number of tails also should be somewhere around 25. This we never suppose in our wildest of imagination. This rarely appears as a case. The case, if I tell you to think in your mind and shaking that box of coins and then thinking about it, that how many heads do you expect and how many tails do you expect, you will tell about the number near to 25. I was explaining that why it happens most generally. It really happens. That's why you are telling that. And it really happens. Why does it happen? Because it has the corresponding, you can change the number of heads and tails. If there are 26 coins with heads and 24 coins with tails, then you can change the number of heads and tails in a very large number of ways. You can change them. Like the one example I just showed, that the coin one was facing heads and the coin 2 was facing tails. You can flip those 2 coins only. The macrostate remained the same, but microstate changed. You can do the same thing with 1 and 3rd. You can do the same thing with 1 and 4th. If they are facing opposite, you just flip those 2 coins. Or you can take 2 coins and flip those 2 coins. You can take 3 coins and flip those 3 coins. The macrostate will remain the same, but microstate will keep on changing. So you have so many ways of changing the microstate. If this is the case, here you have only 50 ways to change the microstate. So that's why at equilibrium system prefers the macrostate where the corresponding number of microstates are maximum. So that is what.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, yes. So I think all these things till now, till at this point, I think it was clear in your statistical mechanics previous courses, and I am still I have one more topic left. So I need about 20 to 25 more minutes. So are you guys, 5 to 6 slides are there. So I need 20 to 25 minutes. If you guys allow, I can continue. Because there is a recap class, so I don't want to stretch it to another day, because today we just keep it.
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
And if you have any doubts, you can just keep on asking. I don't mind. Or we can have it after the class, because if somebody wants to go, they can go if they don't have the doubts. Okay. Yes. So phase space and tau spaces. So there are 2 ways to actually define the microstate of the system. So if you have a one particle, what is a phase space? I think you all guys know. It is a coordinate system with position and momentum. This guy is not called position, it is called generalized position. And you know from the classical mechanics why it is called generalized position, because it is not always have the dimension of x and y and z. It can also have the dimension of theta, and it can also have the dimension. It can be in spherical polar coordinate system. It can be in plane polar coordinate system. This guy, the coordinate, can be in cylindrical polar coordinate system. It can be in parabolic coordinate system. There are many coordinate systems available. So this guy Q can be in any coordinate system. It represents some kind of displacement, but it can be in any coordinate system. And this momentum also is called generalized momentum. It is the momentum corresponding to this component of generalized coordinates. This guy also is called generalized momentum. It is not always the momentum that we use, the kilogram meter per second. It is not that momentum always. It's in most of the cases it is, but it is not always. So what is my point is, if we draw a diagram like this, which is called a phase space, then we can take any point on the phase space and it will represent a state. Every point has a specific position, specific momentum. Every point has a specific position, specific momentum. Every point has a specific position, specific momentum. Every point will be called a state. Okay, so if we want to change the state of the system, we just need to move on this this phase space. Only if we move on the phase space, we can change the state of the system. I think you will be getting this a little bit after I explain this. So this is every point on the phase space represents a state, and this is for a single particle. For a single particle confined in one dimension. So this is phase space for a single particle confined in one dimension. Why I'm saying that? I'll get back to it. I think after 10 minutes you will be understanding what is this. If you don't understand by now, but if you understand, it is very. So this is for single particle confined in 1D. But if we have a system of particles like the gas in the box, like the gas in the box, there are n particles, and all of the particles are moving. The macro state of the system is constant. The macro state of the system is constant. It does have the fixed pressure and volume and everything, but the micro state keeps on changing because the position and momentum of all the particles keeps on changing. That's why to track all the particles, we need 6 n-dimensional space. And that is called the gamma space or tau space, or a gamma space or G space. We can say that gamma space or G space, we need this. Now, just to make sure that you visualize it the way I visualize it, I have a series of examples. Okay. Let us start with this. Just forget for phase space and mu space for a moment, and I just want to know that why there are n dimensional needed. Why there are 6 n dimension means there are. We think that we have to think a lot about it, and we don't understand. When I was a student, I used to not visualize this part. I could not visualize this part. That why do we need 6 n dimensional space and why do we need tau space? If you are with me, then then I think this example will help. So let us think. Let us take that there is a pipe, one-dimensional pipe. There is a particle in the pipe. This simplest example, there is a particle in the pipe, and this particle can move up and down in the pipe. From this fixed point, we can find the position of the particle, and that is x. So what we do is, to simplify, we don't have to do this figure. We try to drop the particle onto the axis. We try to show the same system onto the axis. So it is position axis. The particle is here, and this is the origin, and the particle is from the fixed distance from that origin. If the particle moves in this pipe, the particle also moves on this axis. Okay, if the particle goes up, the particle here also goes at this side. Particle goes down, this goes down. So you can change this guy. If you change this guy, you will eventually see the change in this guy, or you can change this guy, you will eventually see the change in this guy. So these both of the system are equivalent. This is a physical system. We have converted that physical system into mathematical system. This is a particle in pipe. But here comes a twist. What if there are two particles? Because in statistical mechanics, what I wanted to tell is, in statistical mechanics, normally we are worried about so many number of particles. So many number of particles, like in a gas container there are so many particles, or maybe in a chemical there are so many particles. So we are worried about so many particles at the same time. That's why we are interested in its statistical properties, not at individual particle. That I'll be telling in the end. But in statistical mechanics, we are considered with so many particles. That is what you need to know about right now. So if you have two particles, there is the same base here. Both of the particles are in one-dimensional pipe, and both of these particles are moving. Okay, now you can have two different sets of coordinate system for both the particles. That is one way of representing this physical system into the mathematical system. That is the one way. You can move this particle on x axis, and you can move the other particle on x prime axis, and eventually the system will change. I hope you are getting the point. You can have two axes, and eventually the system will change. Okay, if this particle moves, the first particle moves, this one. And if this guy moves here, you can see this guy moves here. So there is one system. There are two axes and two different particles. That is one way to draw this thing mathematically. There is another way to draw this thing mathematically. Draw both of them on the same axis. Then from a fixed point, you can measure x1 and you can measure x2 from the same point. Okay. But here you have to move 2 points. You have to move 2 points on the same axis. But what happens if we just take x axis here and x prime axis here, and we just keep both of them perpendicular to each other, then what happens? We can move this particle on x-axis, we can move this particle on x prime axis, but eventually what happens is, if we move the single point, just the single point, we can move both of the particles. Because if we take this point in this direction, means this coordinate is not changing, is this particle's coordinates are changing. So second particle is moving, this particle is at rest. If we take this point in this direction, then the second particle is at rest, the first particle is moving in rightwards direction, it means upward direction. If we move this point in any random direction, we can move both of the particles at the same time using just a single point. This is the beauty. This is the beauty, that earlier you used to have two axes, or you can have one axis, 2 points, but now you can just move 1 point on the plane, and you have got both the particles covered. The same way you can think about 3 particles in a pipe. The same way you can think about 3 particles in a pipe. And in this case, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to say that if you take 3-dimensional axis, then if you move just 1 point, then you can move all of these 3 particles. You don't have to be rocket scientist to visualize that. I think after this, you don't have to be rocket scientist to visualize this part. This is the beauty of mathematics. You can have 3 perpendicular axes. If you move just 1 point, you can move 3 particles in the real physical world. So this is the mathematical world, this is the physical world. In mathematical world, if you move just 1 point, here you are moving 3 particles. This is the beauty of mathematics. Okay, and that's why for n particles in 1-dimensional pipe, you need n perpendicular axes, and you just move 1 point, and all of the particles you will see them moving. And if we have all of these particles in a box, then you need 3n axes for n particles, because each for 1 dimension you need to know. And that is not difficult to visualize if you visualize this part. This is the simplest case. If you visualize these parts, then you don't need any rocket science to visualize that if you have n particles in 3D box, you need n perpendicular axis, 3n perpendicular axis mathematically, on which I'm not able to draw more than 3 axes, but there are 3n perpendicular axes on which if you move just 1 point, you are able to move all the particles, all the n particles on it. So as I said, the microstate of the system keeps on changing. That means its position and momentum keeps on changing. But if the position and momentum of the particles keeps on changing, then what is the way to track them down? Each and every particle, if you want to track them down, you just make a 6n dimensional axis where 3n components are of position and 3n components are of momentum, and you have all 6n components, and what it does is you just move 1 point in this 6n dimensional axis or 6n dimensional tau space, 6n dimensional space, which we call tau space, gamma space, which we call gamma space. In gamma space, you just move 1 point, and what you are getting is you are changing the complete microstate of the system. When the system, if you fill the gas in the box, okay, this is how we do it. If you fill the gas in the box, all the particles will be continuously moving. The macrostate is fixed. It does have the specific energy, pressure, volume, temperature, everything. But the microstate keeps on changing. Every particle is moving. So in tau space, what you do is, in gamma, I keep on saying tau space, but read it as, listen it as gamma space. So in gamma space, what it does is, you just need to move 1 point, and you have got all the about 10 to the power 23 molecules covered. About 10 to the power 23 molecules are covered. All of their molecules, position and momentum, you can track with just a single point. And as these guys change their position and momentum in phase space, the point also moves, and the point moves on the path, and this path is called the trajectory in the phase space. This part this path is called the trajectory in the phase space. Like you know, I think why the particles are making a path, because they are continuously changing its microstate. So if they are continuously changing its microstate, it has to, the position and momentum of each and every particle has to change. So some components of some particles will continuously be changing, and that's why we can say that trajectory is always defined if the system changes its microstates. So this is the concept of trajectory in phase space. The simplest way of understanding the trajectory is a block fixed with a spring. This is called simple harmonic oscillator. If you extend the block to some point and you release it from here, then you can make its phase space trajectory very simple. You have some x, but no velocity. Now you are releasing it, and if it comes to the central position where there is no displacement, no x, there is x equal to 0, no x, it does have some velocity in this direction. Okay, then what happens is, if you have extended it, it does have some velocity in this direction. Then what happens is it goes to some extreme point where there is no velocity but only position, that is maximum position, and then it comes back and it has velocity in this direction where there is x equal to 0. And this path from equations of motion you have calculated, it turns out to be ellipse. For simple harmonic oscillator, from equations of motion you can calculate this, it turns out to be ellipse. This is the simplest way to know the trajectory of the particle in a phase space, in a px space. Okay, so this is the trajectory of the particle. This is the simple harmonic motion's trajectory. This is the generalized coordinates. Okay, now all of these things said and done, I think the smallest volume enclosed in the phase space, if all the particles in the box, a real box, are classical particles, then there is no limit. Then there is no limit on how small you can get in this smallest volume enclosed. But if they are quantum particles, then the smallest change in position and smallest change in momentum are of the order of h. The Planck's constant are of the order of h. That's why we say that in gamma space, the smallest volume enclosed, in gamma space there are 6 n-x's. In two-dimensional world, the smallest area enclosed was h. So this is area enclosed, because from Heisenberg uncertainty principle, like it is quantum particles. If they are quantum particles, the smallest area enclosed in the phase space is h. These are all the parts that you must have studied in your fourth semester. But if you don't know them right now, try to read BB Loud. I think I have made it almost everything clear. So this is the smallest area enclosed. So for tau, for gamma space, when there are 6 n-dimensional space, for 2-dimensional the area is h. For 6 n-dimensional space, the area is h raised to 3n for 3n particles. There is volume enclosed, smallest volume enclosed for gamma space. For quantum particles, obviously. For classical particles, there is no limit. For classical particles, there are no limits, but for quantum particles, and we will be dealing in this course with quantum particles. So this I am telling you with a reason. We'll be using this number quite a few times, h raised to 3n. So for smallest area enclosed, if you have p axis and x axis, and if you change x by small amount, if you change p by small amount, then the smallest area enclosed is of the order of h. That's why the smallest volume enclosed in tau space or gamma space, I'm sorry, in gamma space is h raised to 3n. So this is all it is. Okay, this is, yes, so phase space and gamma space. I think it is clear till now, and the last part is called ensemble. Okay, last part. This is the last part of today's lecture. Last slide. What does ensemble mean? It means that if you have a system where macro state has stopped changing, and if you have that system where macro state has stopped changing and micro state keeps on changing, then what you do is you need to study this system. That is what the purpose of statistical mechanics. Are you guys still here, or you guys have slept? Need to know. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how many guys have left the class, but I think some of you are here still. Yes, I have heard one voice, so I think some of you are still here. So I'm not speaking to myself. Yes, it is good sign. So if you know, if you what you do is you take a box and you take some gas in it. So this is our ideal system. Okay, so if you measure its pressure, volume, temperature, and internal energy, entropy, everything, then it says that it is in a, if these parameters stops changing, then its macrostate is fixed, the system is in equilibrium, but still all the particles will keep on moving. So its macrostate will keep on changing. Okay, so one way to understand the trajectory in phase space, we want to understand the trajectory in phase space. That is our goal, because if we understand the trajectory of the particle in phase space, we will know when will be the particle, at what instance, where will be the particle, or what will be its property, what will be its state. If the particle starts from here, but if we know its trajectory in advanced, then we can predict that the particle, when it will be here, it has this much momentum and this much position. If we know its trajectory in advanced in theoretical calculations, that is our objective. And somehow it is related to this thing, that Earth revolves around the sun, and we want to know that where will be the Earth at which point in the year. So we will try to predict that trajectory of the Earth in physics by knowing its state, its position. So we'll try to know its state. By knowing its state, we'll be try to predict its future motion. So its trajectory is necessary for Earth and Sun system. Okay, for Earth and Sun system. That's how we need trajectory of all these particles in phase space, because then from then only we know how the microstates of the system is changing. And to know the trajectory, there are two ways. One is you keep the system as it is. Try to follow all the particles. Try to follow all the particles and see how they evolve with time, and see how they make the trajectory. Just like in the spring block system, the simple harmonic oscillator, you followed the block from starting to initial, and you know that it is ellipse, P and X. It is ellipse. You knew as you followed, as you saw the time evolution of the system. But if there are so many particles, it is not possible to see time evolution of each and every particle, and then plot it as a trajectory in phase space. So what do is we think of infinitely many mental copies of the system, all with the same macro state, all are identically prepared, or infinitely many mental copies means you prepare the same box, you have so many boxes. So these boxes are identically prepared, so many boxes. You prepare it means if you have filled the gas, equally and with equal pressure, volume, temperature, everything is there, equal is there. So all the mental copies have same macro state, but they have different microstates. So they are called infinitely many mental copies of the system, and from all of them you measure at same time. You have so many people sitting, so it is imagine it like this, that here is some guy called Chagan sitting here, and here is some guy called Magan, and here is some guy called Saman. All these guys are sitting near the boxes. There are infinitely many guys standing on the Earth, and there are so many boxes in front of their eye level. So all of them measure just one microstate at one instance. And since there are infinitely many mental copies, so you are bound to have the same phase space trajectory that you had in this pattern. Because if you see just what is this, what I am telling is, let me give it a simple example. This spring block example, the same example that we started with. So what I'm telling is, there are so many guys, you keep standing them right and right, here and here, here and here, and you make so many mental copies or mental photos of this block as it goes in this side, and you just give one photo to each person. So they eventually will also make a trajectory like this in phase space. So this is the beauty, that identically creating many mental copies, the box will be in multiple microstate. This block will be in multiple microstate, multiple instance. What is its macrostate? It's fixed energy. But what are microstates? Energies are converted into kinetic and potential energy. So there are so many microstates. Energies are continuously converted from potential to kinetic, All those are microstate. Macrostate is fixed total energy. That is the macrostate. So all these microstates, these guys will be seeing in this aisle, and they will be plotting at the same time. If you give them all different microstates, if you prepare the same system identically infinitely many copies of this block, then in some cases the block will be sitting here, in some cases the block will be sitting here, some cases the block will be sitting here. So all these different infinitely many copies, block will be in different microstates. Macrostate is same, total energy is same. So all these guys who are in different momentum, and all them will notice just one microstate, and they will put their own dot on this phase space curve, and all the dots, infinitely many dots, will combine to make a complete trajectory. That is called the idea of ensemble. We don't generally see the time evolution of the system, as it is hard for all the particles. We make infinitely many mental copies of the system, as it is easy. So this is what we call ensemble. Infinitely many copies of the system which has same macro state but different micro state, so that we can get the state of the system, trajectory of the system easily. This is the idea of ensemble, and this is the idea of equilibrium that I've already given you. And I think it is the end of slideshow.